Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 5 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Gloomy Chipmunk 3993. Fill out these logs exactly. Many years ago, I was working in my state's police department. We got a new inspector at the station and he wanted to chart what all the sections of the station did, and instituted a daily diary where we had to put in and account for every minute of the shift. Lots of grumbling from the troops over the next few weeks. The inspector would go off about the forms not being recorded properly every day at change of shift, and said that there would be consequences if they did not truly reflect what we did. I spoke to my shift and cue Malicious Compliance. I used to get into work 30 odd minutes early to fuel the car, gather my crime fighting kit, wash the car, and prepare for the shift. Now, I didn't do this until the minute my shift started. I would then complete these tasks after having started, then calibrate the radar, see what black spots were to be targeted for today, look at work emails, review the previous night's occurrences, and a myriad of other things before heading out on the road. Now, on each and everything I did, I would record it precisely, even recording the record of the record. Each traffic stop, each job, stopping to give directions or advice would go on the sheet. Then, I would return to the station for lunch. Normally, I would grab it on the go or eat it in my car. But hey, he wants the official day's duties. Our employment law requires that each officer was entitled to 1 half-hour uninterrupted meal break each shift after 5 hours on duty. The inspector, trying to make the station more efficient, started to roster meals before this time. Boss tried to order us to take our meals as recorded on the roster. We all disregarded it and took our meals after the 5 hours. At the end of the day, we attached the industrial award to the daily record and wrote, as per industrial law, meal break taken at first possible time after 5 hours. He went off and threatened us to take the meals as written, or write-ups would happen. That was reported to the union, who threatened industrial and legal action, which he would personally be responsible for. He was forced to rescind that threat. So he gave up on that and doubled down on the daily reporting, writing officers up for non-compliance. I told them all I was doing, and the single page issued at the beginning of the shift was now 3 to 4 pages long, each and every day for 80 officers for 3 shifts. We swamped him with the information. In addition, if a job was broadcast, we were forced to abandon our meal break and attend to the job. Most times we could not return to finish our meals, so often we went hungry. Now, the other part of our meal break rule was that if we did not have a full 1 half-hour uninterrupted meal break, then we would be paid the whole meal break. The boss had a habit of going into the meal room to have a bitch, complain, or harass the officers in there. So when he did this, it was recorded as an interruption. After a few weeks, productivity was down, hours wasted, his budget being blown out as he had to pay for interrupted lunch breaks, which he then denied payments until the union lodged a court injunction, and took the police department to court for each and every single breach for each person and shift. This amounted to hundreds of matters and thousands of dollars. He said all the daily reporting logs with our interrupted meal breaks were somehow lost. That's okay, the union says. Here are the copies taken. He argued that they were done after the court date and were false. But everyone also took copies after they were lodged with his admin assistant with his received stamp on it. Fail for him. The department solicitor approached the union with an offer for us to withdraw the matter. They offered 25% of what we were owed, and all the reprimands would be lifted. It was rejected, and the full 100% was demanded, and the reprimands totally withdrawn and deleted from the records. His Honor ruled in our favor in every single matter. We were all awarded our meal money and compensation for the time wasted, with the department fighting this all the way. They directed him to pay when claimed and all reprimands deleted immediately or penalties would be issued. He had 2 days to comply. This was Friday afternoon, so he had the weekend to get rid of them. Took him until 9 p.m. Sunday night to do it, and he wasn't paid for the time. As we swamped his in-tray with over 160 pages of daily worksheets each, and every shift, every day, that's at least 480 pages a day of compliance, he then tried to demand that we only put serious issues down. We all refused, as he had already informed us all that if we did not put everything down, we would be charged with disobedience. But if we followed his new order, we would be disobeying his previous order. He then threatened to charge us all with disobedience if we did not do the new rule. The sergeant sent all this to the union with the threats and to his boss and his boss's boss. Wouldn't you know, several days later, all his daily reporting sheets were not to be used any longer. Apparently, the union sat down with the district command bosses and let them know that this would be a continuing matter if the inspector was not moved, and that their own positions were now up for review of the mismanagement they allowed, and the fine the department received from court. The commissioner of police was notorious for terminating those who stuffed around with the troops and dragged the department into court for mismanagement. They had already been embarrassed in court, had the police department receive court costs and fined for the breaches, and could see another court appearance looming, and saw the damage he was doing to the station, and promptly transferred him to the district office where he could not supervise anyone. His contract was not renewed 8 months later, and he left the department. Those who had known the inspector say he had no idea what problems he caused, and was just trying to make the organization more efficient. When they told him how much he made things worse, he just said that the troops never minded missing lunch or eating in the cars before. They told him that his demand to strictly follow policy alienated everyone, and to put another daily reporting sheet on top of the department's official daily diary was just superfluous. At the end of the day, he had no clue why he lost his job. There were many other stupid things he did, like not issuing pens until the ones we had were fully out of ink, so we had no pen to sign the requisition, and his admin staff were instructed not to lend pens out to sign, or we could buy a pen from them. The exception to the rule is that if we lost it, we could get another one. Cue more malicious compliance. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called OneLessDay517. It says, I would not be able to resist the urge to lose minimum 3 pens a day, and have to drive back to the station every single time for a new one. That's some great compliance right there, but make sure that when that pen runs out and you do have to drive back to the station, that you make sure you document that, because they want it on the log, every single thing you've done. I'd also like to mention that this story was a pretty positive advertisement for unions, because they really went to bat for these guys against their bosses. It's crazy how micromanagement and lack of understanding can lead to complete chaos. This story comes to us from Kitty Migu. Stop omitting useless, unnecessary information from the customer. You got it, boss. This happened 3 years ago. Back in my old job, I used to work in a call center as an agent. My very first time working in a call center. Our company valued and monitored call time, so we were told to handle calls quickly, around 3 to 5 minutes per call, so we could assist more customers. After my training and nesting, they introduced me to the production floor. Early on, I noticed an easy way to handle calls fast. I would read the disclaimers and fine print, but the customers would just always brush me off, or make me skip it, or just not really care at all. So I decided to provide them an option to listen to me, or just skip it entirely. I did that, and in my first month working in the production floor, I was praised for only having 3 to 4 minutes average call time, handling 60 to 70 customers per day. I kept on doing this method for 2 more months. On my 4th month, there was a sudden change to the policy that told us to always read the disclaimers or fine print to the customers, even though they don't want to listen to it. That meant our call time would easily double. But since I already asked my customers if they want me to read the disclaimers to them or not, I just kept doing it my way. At my next monthly review, I was called up by quality assurance and my team leader regarding my calls, where they told me not to skip or omit the disclaimers. I tried to argue with them that I give my customers the option to listen to the disclaimers or not, and I even read the disclaimers to the customers if they wanted to change something on their account, or if the changes would charge their account even if they don't want to listen to the disclaimer. But they were adamant on following the new policies. Cue the malicious compliance. I talked with everyone who was also given a warning to follow the new policies and told them to just comply with the new policy, even if it cost us our call time and customer feedback. By this point, our average call time was already reaching 8 to 15 minutes since we had to double check the customer's account and their information, confirm every action we are going to take, read out paragraphs of disclaimers. There could be 2 or more disclaimers in a single call, as well as documenting the call. This doesn't include calls where we have to get multiple people or departments involved. Due to the unsolicited reading of the disclaimers, more and more people were starting to get irate during calls. Our company's rating went down significantly when we received negative feedback, as well as complaints from customers regarding the employees and the service. I think this cost our company some money because many people at our office were laid off. Around this time, I found a better company with better pay, so I left. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Hecate Soap. It says, I get why you did not always read the disclaimer, but it is there to prevent a lawsuit. While time-consuming, it is very serious, especially if your center is responsible for any personal information. Okay, I completely understand that those disclaimers are there for a reason, but maybe some of those disclaimers could be an automated thing that the actual agents don't have to read. If there's one that the agents have to do on every call, then it should be pre-recorded and unskippable before they even get to an agent. But let's be honest about OP in this story, they're just being negligent about their job. It's not really malicious compliance, it's doing something that could get the company in a lot of trouble by not reading the disclaimers to the customers. This story comes to us from Freckles42, Side Rule Loophole. When I was in high school 25 years ago, ouch, I had the same math teacher for both junior and senior year. She was a hard butt and a riot. She liked that I was good in math. She did not like that I did not give a crap, study, or do my homework for math class. I still got A's on my tests and quizzes, which were the vast majority of our grades. I had, in fact, done the math and realized I could go all year without doing any homework and still get an A, so long as I participated in class regularly. Anyway, one of the rules for our math tests was that we were normally permitted to use a freshly wiped TI-83 calculator. However, for some of our tests, she warned us that we were not going to be permitted to use any kind of electronic calculator for the test. She gave us a sheet with the instructions for the test, what was being tested, etc. I heard that, immediately spotted a loophole, and heard a challenge being issued. Went home and asked my father, an attorney so a fan of malicious compliance, if he could show me how to use his scientific slide rule. It was the same make and brand that NASA used on the Mercury and Apollo missions, so highly accurate, and he had it because he went to a prestigious tech school, think MIT quality. Once I had the hang of it, I happily brought it to class for the test a few days later. I sat in the front row, assigned seating, so she saw it immediately. Freckles42, no calculators on this test. Miss, the sheet you gave us says no electronic calculators. I handed her the sheet she'd given us at the beginning of the week. A long silence. Do you know how to actually use that? Yes, ma'am. A sigh. She asked me to demonstrate with a quick equation. I did just fine, and she finally shrugged and said I'd still have to show my work. I would have had to anyway, but it was good to be able to confirm my answers were correct, which was the entire point for me, really. Next test said, no calculators besides your brains and your fingers are allowed to be used on this test. I'm guessing she didn't want someone to turn up with an abacus. I love malicious compliance stories where the person it's being pulled on actually embraces it in the end. The math teacher here was probably frustrated with you, OP, but a part of them was going, that's actually kind of impressive. This story actually got me interested in slide rules and how they work, so I'm going to watch some videos on that and learn a new skill myself. This story comes to us from PM Me Your Anything. Oh, that's dangerous. Asked wife for help, got exactly what I asked for. This happened about 2 hours ago. I'm not even mad, I'm impressed. So here I am taking a quick 30-minute morning poop while working from home, when I noticed the lack of toilet paper. Knowing I had used the last of it the night before, I concluded that I had, in fact, put myself in this situation. I called my wife, who was upstairs, and asked if she could kindly bring down the white sheets, which will free me from the stink trap of my own making. The exact words I used were, "I don't care if it's even half a roll, I just need something." Several excruciating minutes went by. You know the time when you've finished with everything you wanted to watch or read on your phone, and you're just sitting there with a crappy bum? This was made even worse because I couldn't hear her moving around to bring me the toilet paper. Then my wife appeared. She had a smile on her face. Then she handed me half a roll. She had cut the roll in half. She proceeded to laugh so hard, she had to take her Ventolin inhaler. I finished up in the bathroom. When I came out, I told her I only got to wipe half my butt. I'm going to start looking before pooping more often. Well, OP, I think your wife turned a crappy situation into a cheeky one. She managed to wipe herself out with laughter while you were flush with frustration. I bet you'll make sure the bathroom is stocked up from here on so you don't find yourself in another predicament. Oh, they're gonna murder me in the comments. This story comes to us from 37-year-old Throwaway. Don't tell me how to do my job. 2 years ago, after putting hardwood in our foyer and dining room, we decided on a particular baseboard that Lowe's carried in Pro Packs. These packs came with 6 12-foot boards and I believe cost $180 each. We purchased 2 packs, knowing that one wasn't enough, but we should have 4 boards left over, which we could then return. Due to a few miscuts, first time DIYing floors, we ended up having 3 full boards to return, which I lugged back with my receipt. I brought them to the return area, and the lady who helped me was very unpleasant. As she took my receipt, I explained that these were 3 boards from one of the Pro Packs on the receipt, and that the refund should be half of the cost of one, which is what the person who sold me the packs originally told me would happen. She asked me if I bought one of the boards on another receipt, and I repeated that all 3 boards were part of a pack, that there was no other receipt, and that the refund should only be half of one of the listed items. She said back to me verbatim, "Don't tell me how to do my job," and then walked back in the area to talk to another lady also working returns. 2 minutes later, she came back and asked for my credit card. After putting a refund for $360 on my card, she also gave me a Lowe's store gift card with $180 on it because I didn't have the receipt for the 3rd board I was returning. I was going to mention that I should have only gotten a $90 refund on my card and no gift card, but I didn't want to tell her how to do her job, so I left. Went back a few weeks later and used the gift card for 5 gallons of paint, which we used to paint the same rooms. I'm guessing that much of a mistake from a cashier is enough to get them fired pretty quickly. But with an attitude like that, especially towards a customer who's trying to save them money, maybe it was deserved. This cashier even consulted with somebody else before they gave OP the refund. Were they both newbies? Were they like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good, just give them the refund, it's okay"? If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to the favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. Also, if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.